On May 6, 2013, a woman pounded on a stranger's door in Cleveland, Ohio. She was shaking, barefoot, terrified. When the door opened, she said,
Cleveland 911, you need...
Hello, please. Help me, I'm Amanda Berry.
You need police, fire, or ambulance.
I need police.
Okay, and what's going on there?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here, I'm free now.
For a decade, her face had been on posters. Her family had mourned her. Police had stopped searching, but she was never gone. She was 5 miles away, locked inside a house on Seymour Avenue, and she wasn't the only one. Amanda Berry disappeared just one day before her 17th birthday. She was heading home after finishing her shift at the Burger King located at West 110th and Lorraine. That night, she spoke on the phone with her mother, Lawana Miller, and told her she had a ride. Later, Lawana repeatedly emphasized the same point. Amanda did not like walking home because the area was not considered safe. She always took a ride or waited for one, but there was one thing she said with absolute certainty. Amanda would never get into a car with a stranger. When she failed to arrive home, no one initially grasped the seriousness of the situation. Missing person reports come in every day, and the first responding officer treated it as a routine case. There was no crime scene, no signs of struggle, no eyewitnesses, just a girl who had suddenly vanished. Detectives spoke with the family, questioned the Burger King employees, and interviewed schoolmates and friends. Every tip was pursued, but each lead eventually collapsed. Nothing solid was emerging. For Lawana, however, this was never routine. For her, it was a life-and-death situation. She appeared repeatedly on news stations, pleading in front of the cameras that she just wanted to know what had happened. She insisted that Amanda's photo be shown in every newscast. If her daughter's picture was not aired during the 11 p.m. news, the newsroom phone would ring by 11:30. She would call, cry, sometimes shout, insisting that someone must have seen something, that someone must know something. Her pain was raw and unfiltered. Staying on the phone lines throughout the night, clinging to the hope that a lead might come in, had become her routine. A week later, the investigation took an unexpected turn. Lawana received a call from an unknown male. In a calm voice, he said that Mandy was with him and that she was okay. The call had been made from Amanda's own cell phone.
I get a phone call, and it's an unknown male. It just says that Mandy's with him and she's all right.
Lawana kept him on the line for as long as possible, hoping to hear her daughter's voice in the background, hoping for any noise, any clue. Then suddenly, there was silence, and the call disconnected. In that moment, for the first time, the family and the police felt real hope. They believed Amanda was alive and that perhaps she would return home within days. That moment changed everything. The FBI was now officially involved. Technical teams immediately analyzed the cell data. Their assessment was that the call had bounced off a specific tower. The coverage area of that tower was mapped out. A pie-slice-shaped section was drawn. A systematic search began. Every door was knocked on. Every vacant property was checked. Every possible location, even cemeteries, was searched. For investigators, this was a strong indication that Amanda could still be alive, and possibly inside a house or apartment within that area. That thought became hope for Lawana Miller. She would go and stand near the cell tower. She would say she could feel that her daughter was somewhere close by. Her instinct was strong, and later it turned out she was not wrong. Meanwhile, months began to pass. Posters slowly started to fade. Public attention gradually declined. But for Lawana, time seemed frozen. She would watch a news story about a missing dog and break down, feeling that her daughter was not receiving that level of coverage. Every day brought a new breakdown. Every night brought a new wave of restlessness. As time went on, Amanda Berry's case gradually began to grow cold. Leads were diminishing, and public attention was shifting elsewhere. But for Lawana, there was no stopping. She was frustrated. She began to feel that the police and the FBI were not doing enough. But Lawana was not going to stop. Even so, Lawana Miller's determination did not weaken. If the system was not bringing her daughter back, she would do it herself. And if she failed, she feared she would lose her daughter forever. Then, nearly a year later, in that same neighborhood, another girl disappeared. Gina DeJesus.
Welcome back, everyone. Cleveland police are asking for your help tonight to find a missing 14-year-old girl. Her name is Gina DeJesus. She's been missing since after school yesterday.
Same West Side, same age group, same routine, and once again, no clear explanation. For Nancy DeJesus, the day had begun completely normally. In the morning, she hugged and kissed her daughter goodbye, and her father dropped her off at school. When Gina had not returned home between 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they initially waited 30 minutes, assuming she might have stayed with friends. But when calls were made and no one had seen her, panic slowly began to set in. The family immediately returned to the school. They searched for an hour, but there was no trace. Amid that growing anxiety, Nancy felt a strong instinct from within that Gina was in trouble. Now the pattern was becoming disturbing. It no longer felt like a coincidence. In the same neighborhood where the cell tower had been traced, there was a tight-knit Puerto Rican community. People knew one another. Families were deeply interconnected. Not far from there stood a house. Boarded-up windows, always closed, strangely quiet. People had seen it. They had noticed it. But no one imagined that evil could ever be so close. The investigation continued. Searches were ongoing. Cameras were recording. Pleas were being broadcast everywhere. But answers remained distant. The truth, however, was still hidden.
It started out as a beautiful day for me, you know. It was the same routine. I woke her up, I gave her a hug and a kiss, told her I loved her. She left with her father that took her to school in the morning. At 2:30, 3 o'clock, she didn't come home. So I was, wait a minute, let me give her 30 minutes, because maybe she stopped. She's probably, joking around with the other kids and that, which would be a normal routine for her. But when I noticed 30 minutes went by, that's when I got really worried, because she should have been home.
I drove back to the school. I must have searched about at least a good hour. Didn't see nothing. Nobody's around. Got back in the car, went back to the house. Right then and then I started feeling Gina's in a lot of trouble.
The search was growing louder and more urgent. National attention had arrived. Gina's case was set to be featured on America's Most Wanted. Local police and the FBI were actively working the case. But the investigation had become more than procedural. It had become personal for the community. A year after Gina's disappearance, the FBI released a composite sketch and description of a suspect. The man was described as a Latino male between 25 and 35 years old, approximately 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing between 165 and 185 pounds, with green eyes, a goatee, and possibly a thin, pencil-style beard. Then came a turning point. The two families were brought together. Luana and Nancy sat in the same room, two mothers united by the same pain. They discussed the list of suspects, examined leads, and considered every possible scenario. And now, one name was slowly stepping out of the shadows: Ariel Castro. Not knowing was the hardest part. It wasn't merely a phrase. It was the collective scream of parents who went to sleep every night with the same agonizing question: is our daughter still alive? The pain of Luana Miller, the pain of Gina DeJesus' parents, the pain of Amanda Berry's family, all of it was intertwined. Gina was only 14 years old when she disappeared from Cleveland, just a few blocks from where Amanda had last been seen. Gina's father was absolutely certain this was no accident. In a public appeal, he pleaded that whoever was holding them should let both girls go home. This was not simply a message for the media. It was the desperate cry of a father who refused to give up.
I think I didn't do my job very well. As a protector, I put it on my fault that this happened to my child. I felt that right there and then, that I have failed.
Luana was fighting relentlessly for her daughter. One day, she went to a TV studio to meet a psychic and was told that her daughter was dead, and that her body was in water. Its impact was devastating. In that moment, years of hope collapsed inside a mother. Meanwhile, the FBI released a sketch that resembled him. But years passed and media interest faded. People began speculating that perhaps it was a runaway case. In 2012, a man in jail falsely claimed he had killed Amanda and buried her body. Police spent 2 days digging, but nothing was found. He had lied in hopes of getting out of jail. The most painful reality was that police had come incredibly close several times, yet the girls could not tell them they were right there. Then one day, They found the doors unlocked. Jocelyn went downstairs and returned, saying, "Daddy isn't there." They understood that this might be the moment they had been waiting for. That day seemed ordinary until loud banging erupted at the door. At first, many assumed it was a family argument, but the pounding did not stop. From inside, the panicked screams of a young woman could be heard. She shouted that she needed to get out, that the door was chained shut. When the door was finally broken open and she stepped outside, she immediately asked for a phone. Her breathing was frantic, and the fear in her eyes was intense. On the 911 call, she revealed she had been held inside that house for years, 10 years, and she was not alone. There were 2 other girls still inside.
Adam 23 radio. We found them. We found them. We also have a Michelle Knight in the house.
Police arrived within minutes. The house was surrounded. When officers entered, the other 2 girls were unable to trust anyone easily at first. But when they saw the uniforms and realized it was a real rescue, they slowly stepped forward. As they emerged, disbelief filled their eyes. After abducting Michelle Knight, Ariel Castro had confined her to the upper part of his house.
Cleveland, where those 3 young women are marking this holiday free for the first time in a decade.
According to prosecutors, the victims' diaries documented their years in captivity. For all that time, they remained locked in rooms, completely cut off from the world. There was a time when, inside that house, there were moments that almost resembled normalcy. Pizza and soda on the table, casual conversation in the air. The same man who had turned their lives into hell sat there talking about his childhood.
We had I guess, what they consider a long conversation over some pizza and some soda about his childhood. He did have a horrible childhood, but it's like I told him, just because you have a horrible childhood doesn't mean you have the right to continue the abuse.
Then one day, he walked into the room with a gun. In a disturbingly casual tone, he introduced the idea of a game, Russian roulette. A 14-year-old girl might not have even fully understood what that meant.
He comes in with a gun and he's like, "Want to play a game? We're going to play Russian roulette." And I said, "Sure." I was 14. I didn't even know what Russian roulette was.
Michelle refused, but the game began anyway. The cylinder spun. In a cold voice, he said that if she died, she died. This was not a game. It was a demonstration of power, an extreme form of psychological control. She pulled the trigger. She was still alive. Then he placed the gun in her hands and twisted the situation further, saying that if she pulled the trigger, it would mean she hated him.
I just wanted to turn the gun to him and say goodbye, but I was too scared. And I really didn't think there were bullets in the gun, but then he showed us that there was a bullet in there.
For Michelle, it had all begun as an ordinary day. She had an appointment to attend. She was asking a store manager for help. That was when a man overheard the conversation and said he knew where the place was. Michelle recognized him. He was a familiar face, known as a girl's father, and everything continued to feel normal. The gate was locked, justified as a precaution because it was a rough neighborhood. They walked through the kitchen and went upstairs. But by the time they reached the top, a door slammed shut, and a sentence delivered with chilling finality. She would never be allowed to go home. Panic froze her body. She fell to the floor, begging. Her ID was destroyed, her photographs torn apart. The systematic erasure of her identity had begun. An extension cord was used to bind her hands, feet, and neck. She was suspended from a rod, her body literally hanging. Slowly, numbness crept in. Blood circulation was being cut off. Her voice was muffled, her breathing fractured. And in that moment, only one thought remained in her mind. Her son.
I was literally hanging there. My legs, my feet, my arms, all parts of my body just went completely numb. I was thinking of my son. That's the only thing that was keeping me holding on, because I didn't know how to keep hanging on. At that point, I just wanted to go.
The interior of the house was disturbing. Windows were covered, doors reinforced, arranged to ensure no one could escape and no one could look inside. From the outside, it appeared to be a normal home. Neighbors thought he was strange, but not enough to imagine 3 lives were imprisoned inside.
And I look out my window, and I see my neighbors in the middle of the street, but they're not looking at me. They're looking at the house next door. They say, it's some girl. She want to get out the house. Then what did you help her? We're not going to get involved in that. We don't know her. She comes out. She comes out with a little girl. She's like, I'm a man to bury.
Here comes 3 cop cars. We found your daughter.
When the girls' names were confirmed, officers realized these were long unresolved missing cases. Their families had never given up hope, but over time, the world assumed they would never be found. Then suddenly, after one broken door, everything changed. A decade of darkness ended in a single evening. Castro admitted the kidnappings were crimes of opportunity. He described himself as cold-blooded and an addict. The victims were alive just a few blocks away, yet no one knew. This was not just a rescue story, it was a story of survival. Despite years of torture, isolation, and fear, they did not abandon hope. A single decision at the right moment changed everything.